Once upon a time, there were two brothers. They were named Heungbu and Nolbu. Though they were siblings, they were very different in nature. They lived in a small village with rice fields and a sparkling river. The village was picturesque, with traditional houses and a serene environment.
Nolbu had a big house and many things. He was wealthy and had everything he could ever want.
Heungbu lived in a tiny hut. He had very little, just enough to get by each day. Despite his circumstances, Heungbu was a kind man. He always had a warm smile on his face. He always shared what little he had with others. Nolbu, on the other hand, was greedy. Nolbu kept everything for himself. He never thought about sharing or helping others. Nolbu never wanted to help anyone. He turned away from those in need, even his own brother. One day, Heungbu had nothing left to eat. His pantry was empty, and there was no food on the table. His children were very hungry. They had empty plates and sad faces, not knowing when their next meal would come. Desperate and with no other options, Heungbu decided to ask Nolbu for help. He hoped his brother would show some compassion. Heungbu went to Nolbu's big house. He knocked on the door.
"Brother, can you spare some food? My family is hungry."
Go away, I have no food for you.
Heungbu was sad. He walked home slowly. On the way, he saw an injured swallow. It had a broken leg.
He gently picked it up. He took it home and carefully bandaged its leg. He fed it seeds and water.
The swallow got better. Heungbu was happy. He set it free to fly away. The next spring, the swallow returned. It had been a long winter and Heungbu had almost forgotten about the little bird he had helped. But as the flowers began to bloom and the days grew warmer, the swallow came back, just as it had promised. This time, it had a seed in its beak. The seed was small and unassuming, but it glistened in the sunlight, hinting at something special. The swallow seemed to know exactly what it was doing as it flew down towards Heungbu. It dropped the seed at Heungbu's feet. Heungbu was surprised and curious. He picked up the seed, wondering what kind of plant it would grow into.
He planted the seed in his garden, carefully covering it with soil and watering it. He hoped that it would grow into something beautiful.
The seed grew into a magical gourd vine. It sprouted quickly, its vines reaching out and wrapping around everything in its path. The leaves were large and green, and the flowers were a brilliant shade of yellow. The vine grew many large gourds. Heungbu picked a gourd, marveling at its size and weight. He had never seen anything like it before. When he opened it, gold and jewels poured out. Heungbu was rich. He couldn't believe his eyes. The gourd was filled with more treasure than he had ever seen in his life.
Nolbu heard about Heungbu's good fortune. He was very jealous. He couldn't stand the thought of his brother having so much wealth while he had nothing. He wanted gold and jewels too. The sight of the glittering treasure consumed his thoughts, and he became obsessed with finding a way to get his hands on it. So, Nolbu went out and found a bird. He broke its leg. He knew that if he could trick the bird into thinking he had saved it, it might bring him a magical seed as well. Then he pretended to save it. Nolbu bandaged the bird's leg and acted as if he was its savior, hoping that his deceit would lead to the same fortune that had blessed his brother.
The bird flew away, soaring high into the sky, leaving behind the tree branch it had called home for the winter. Its wings flapped gracefully as it disappeared into the horizon, a symbol of freedom and new beginnings. Nolbu waited for his reward, his heart filled with anticipation. He had done a good deed and now stood by, expecting something wonderful to come his way. His eyes scanned the skies, hoping for a sign. When spring came, the bird returned, bringing with it the promise of renewal. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the bird's song was a melody of hope and joy. It dropped a seed at Nolbu's feet, a tiny gift that held the potential for something great. Nolbu picked it up, feeling a sense of wonder and curiosity about what it might become.
He planted the seed with care, tending to it daily. He watered it, made sure it got enough sunlight and protected it from pests. He nurtured it with the hope that it would grow into something magnificent.
The seed grew into a vine, its tendrils reaching out and wrapping around the nearby structures. It grew quickly, almost magically, transforming the garden into a lush green paradise. But this vine grew scary gourds. They were unlike anything Nolbu had ever seen, with twisted shapes and eerie patterns. They seemed to pulse with a strange energy, making Nolbu uneasy. When Nolbu opened a gourd, scary creatures jumped out. They were grotesque and menacing, with sharp teeth and glowing eyes. Nolbu's heart raced as he realized the danger he was in. They chased him around the village. Nolbu was scared. He ran as fast as he could, his mind filled with regret and fear. The creatures were relentless, and Nolbu felt his strength waning. He realized he had been greedy and cruel. In his solitude, he reflected on his actions and the consequences they had brought. He understood that his selfishness had led to his current predicament.
Nolbu went to Heungbu and apologized. With tears in his eyes, he expressed his remorse and begged for forgiveness. Heungbu listened, his heart softening as he saw the sincerity in Nolbu's plea. He promised to be a better person. Nolbu vowed to change his ways, to be kind and generous, and to make amends for his past mistakes. Heungbu accepted his promise, hoping for a brighter future.
Heungbu forgave him. The two brothers embraced, their bond stronger than ever. They decided to move forward together, leaving behind the bitterness and resentment of the past. They shared their wealth and lived happily ever after. The end. The family gathered around a table, sharing a meal and celebrating their newfound harmony. Laughter filled the air, and they knew that they had truly found happiness.